What is up, podcast land? Welcome to another episode of the Two Dates and a Dash podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cubbler, and before I introduce this chick, I'm going to tell you what she's doing is a labor of love, and you're going to truly enjoy all the things she's doing as far as helping law enforcement and just being a good human being. Heather Benson. I'm going to first tell you where you can hear the podcast anywhere, iHeart, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, wherever you're listening to podcasts, you can find Two Dates in a Dash podcast. All I ask is that whatever platform you listen on, if you can click the automatic download button, that would help me out a lot. And if you have the ability to like and rate or even write a review on your platform, that would also help as well. But make sure you do subscribe and share it with your friends and let everybody know where they can find it as well. This is my 76th episode of the Two Dates in a Dash podcast. I also have a second podcast I started called The Third Shift Chronicles, which is basically a solo 20-minute show where I share a crazy, scary, funny, depending on the story from my military and law enforcement career and even my personal life. That's just a chance for me to sort of be a little bit more true to who I am as a person. Allows me to just sort of go off on a different tangent, which is nice. So if you feel like going to Third Shift Chronicles, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can also subscribe to that one and make sure you click that automatic download. If you want to learn more about me and what I'm doing, my book, A Brother's Love, a Memoir, if I'm speaking and podcasting and all that kind of stuff, you can go to mattcubbler.com and everything's there. So that's that. So Heather Benson, we met through a mutual friend who is also a podcaster named Tim Michael. He's has the 10 Factor, which is his podcast. Great guy, great business mind, tons of valuable information on his podcast as well. But he introduced us together, knowing that I'm a cop and that what she's doing for law enforcement. He thought it'd be a good fit, and it certainly was. So without further ado, Heather Benson, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And you're down in Maryland, right?
Yes. Waiting for crab season to start.
Man, I'll tell you what, if you've never been to Maryland and had a crab cake or a crab in general, you're missing out. I went to Inner Harbor, and Phillips is like the chain version of the crab cake seafood house down there. Amazing. But if you get to go to one of these off the beaten trail crab houses down in Maryland, especially on the Eastern Shore, you're going to be in for a treat. So now you may be hungry for crabs.
Darn.
So I'm having sloppy joes for dinner, so that's not nearly as good as
that does not compare.
No. Although
they're good.
My mom's sloppy joe recipe is phenomenal, so that's the one we use, which is basically just ketchup, mustard, and brown sugar. But now I'm hungry for those. So see, it all worked. It's all mind tricks. All right, so Heather does this I don't know what you would call it, business, but it's not business. You're not making money at it. It's a nonprofit or a charity or something. It's called Rocks for L.E.Os. And for you people that aren't cops, L.E.O stands for Law Enforcement Officer. So it's an acronym. And what she does is so cool. She takes, I don't know, they look like lava rocks or sea rocks. They're like probably 3-inch in diameter, smooth-faced rocks, and she paints messages on them for police officers. And she sent Collegeville Police Department, where I'm a cop, our guys, she sent every one of them a personalized rock, and everybody truly loved it. And the more I follow along and I watch all the different police departments that you're interacting with and the pride that they get from seeing this labor of love is what it is. I just think it's the coolest thing on the planet. So why don't you tell people, well, before I actually go there, stop. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I asked the same question for everybody. And I think one of the cool things about what you're doing is people need to know who you are as well. There's always a story behind the reason why you're doing something. And I think when people get to know who you are, why you do what you do makes more sense. So I asked the same question to everybody, and it's a pretty large question could go in 100 different directions, but who is Heather Benson?
Who am I? Well, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. And I don't know. I mean, I like stupid TV shows. They're kind of my escape from reality. I will binge watch stupid TV shows and forget about all the crappiness that's in the world. I do not have law enforcement background at all No one in my family has ever been law enforcement, military, but not law enforcement. I just, you know, I worked until I had my first daughter and then became a stay-at-home mom. So I'm a stay-at-home mom and I love it. It is the hardest job in the world, but it's the best job in the world. Wouldn't trade it for anything. And I just want to raise my girls to be good. I just want them to continue on with having manners and respect and respecting law enforcement. And, just, I don't know. I guess, I mean, there are only two people, but I kind of want to hope that they can kind of counteract some of the negativity and not so nice things that's going on in the world.
I love the fact you're a stay-at-home mom, and people don't understand that. First of all, not only the hard work that comes with being a stay-at-home mom, but the sacrifice that a husband and wife make when they make that commitment to having one of the parties in the relationship be the primary caregiver. Yeah, I'm sure, financially speaking, life would be a whole lot better if you both had income coming in from careers. And my wife and I made a decision when we had our first kid, that she was going to, I knew at some point in time she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but in the beginning when we got married in 94 or in 97, started dating in 94, and I'd only been a cop 4 or 5 years, and I was making $22,000 a year or something ridiculously stupid back then. And we just couldn't afford it in the beginning. And she went to become a teacher, and she taught. And then we had our second kid, my son. And then she went back to work after a 1-year sabbatical. And I was an air marshal at the time. This is just, and maybe you have a funny story when you guys made the final decision to become a stay-at-home mom. I came home from a overseas trip, and I walked in the door and I had my carry-on bag toting behind me. And I said, "Hey, babe, how are you?" And all I hear is this sound, and I wish I could replicate it, but imagine cutting vegetables on a cutting block on the kitchen counter. And you hear that, goosh, goosh, and she is assaulting a carrot with a knife. She's going straight up ISIS on this carrot's head, right? She's chopping this carrot up, and I can hear it echoing down the hall, and I'm like, holy shit. And I said, "Hey, hon." She looked at me. She goes, first of all, this was when she decided that we were having no more kids, because we had a girl first and then a boy second. And she looked at me. She goes, "Get it done." And that was when I knew I needed to get a vasectomy. That was number one. And she didn't have to say a word. She just said, "Get it done." And I knew exactly what she meant. And then we made the decision for her to be a stay-at-home mom, because working full-time as a teacher, she taught first grade probably at the time, I think, or even kindergarten. And then having a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old at home, and then having to, and a husband who was flying all over the world and was home sporadically. And when I was home, I was jet lagged and pretty much useless. So that was like the moment when we decided it was time for her to be a mom full time. And financially, that was a huge risk to take, because we were having the comforts of two incomes coming in. What was it like when you decided to become a stay-at-home mom? And was there similar type of, you saw the need, or was it something that was pre-planned or preordained when you first started to have kids?
No. When we had our first daughter, I was working, and I worked all the way up till about 2 days before she was born. And then I fully intended on going back to work. I come from my parents both still, well, actually my dad just retired in, January 1st was his official retirement date after 42 years at the same company.
Wow.
So my whole life, both of my parents worked full time. And that's just the life I knew. You go back to work, you work full time, your kids go to school. But my husband, he was like, "I think you should think about being a stay-at-home mom. I would love for you to be home with our daughter and not rely on daycare. And, I really want you to think about it." And I said, "No, absolutely not. I'm going back to work." I looked at daycares, and then she was born. I brought her home, and I said, "I'm not going back to work." Once I saw her face, I could not. I couldn't do it.
You couldn't imagine leaving it every day.
I cannot leave her. I cannot leave her. I cannot miss her first steps. I cannot miss her first words. I can't do it. I can't allow some cold, not that, okay, daycares are nice, and I fully intended on using one, but nothing replaces a mom or a father in the home. It just doesn't for me. And it wasn't worth it. And then we actually looked at it financially. And I worked for a wonderful doctor's office. I loved my job. I scheduled orthopedic surgeries for surgeons and loved it. But when I looked at the cost of daycare, I was going to lose half of my salary just to daycare. I don't know how people do it. I do not know how people pay for daycare.
It is, we had the same mathematical formula that we worked through. And while it was a financial decision that we had to make sure we had enough money and that my salary could support the whole family. And but we did, the deciding factor was when we looked at the cost of daycare versus what she was making monthly as a teacher, I think we were like plus $900 a month.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it, I'm like, $900 is really all we're adding in value to our financial bottom line. And I said, that's just, that's $9. I'll give hugs all day long to my kid. Someone's there to be there when they wake up and get them fed and get them off to school when they're school age, and making sure someone's there when they get home and getting them to practice. And my wife's been a stay-at-home mom now. So my son's 17. So 16 years she's been a stay-at-home mom. And it was without a doubt the single greatest decision we did collectively, because of the fact that the world, and as a cop, I know this way too clearly, that the world is messed up and there's not enough effort. And I think that's what the key word is, effort, from parents anymore to raise their children in a way that allows them to be productive members of society at some point in time in their life. And I wanted to make sure that my two kids that have my last name are not going to be a statistic of the ones that fell through the cracks and are doing stupid shit for the rest of their life. I needed to make sure that my kids had the right moral fiber and the ethics and the work ethic and the love and the accountability and responsibility that comes from having a constant in their life every single day that's there to make sure that all that stuff is being done. Yeah. And it's somebody that loves them. And I think that's probably one of the greatest gifts we gave our children, is that connectivity of that constant at home.
Yeah.
Now, how old are your kids?
15 and 5, but my 5-year-old will be 6 next month.
Well, you had a little bit of a break there.
Yeah. Yes, we thought we were done.
Right. I was going to say, yeah. Was there an oops?
No, it was a full out surprise.
Yeah.
It was God's grace. Literally, God is the one that made it happen, because it was a 1,000,000% best surprise of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You both girls, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's fear. I feel for your husband, because right now he's going through the teenage years.
Oh, yes.
And she's going to get through them.
We hope.
And he's going to get a break. And then it's going to happen all over again.
Oh, no, because everything that happens to the teenager, whether it's moods or just, girl
right.
stuff,
right.
Our 5-year-old also, oh, Dad, I have this ailment too, or and he's like, help me. Please help me. I'm like, this is life with girls. You better toughen up, because they're gonna, I'm like, girls talk about girl stuff. They don't care that you're the dad.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I definitely, I lucked out in that my daughter and my wife are very, like my daughter's super aware. Like, she's just hyper aware of everything. And she's gotten that from me, as far as her understanding of what's going on in the world around her. And she's not really lost in her own drama very much, but she's very good at knowing which parent is the one that's going to deal with this the best. And it was very strategic in it's literally, you could draw a line in the list of things that mom handles and the thing that dad handles. And mom knows not to come to dad unless there's a problem that's unsolvable by both of them. And then they also understand that when I become involved, then it's my way of handling it. This isn't a negotiation kind of component. So I did luck out in the fact that I didn't have to deal with a lot of the typical girl dad weirdness. I had my wife handled 99% of the girl stuff, and when it was time for me to step in, I was called in for, to close things out sometimes. But for the most part, we lucked out in that category. But now she's 22, she's graduating college, and she's a full-blown woman and doing woman-like stuff. So our relationship is now evolving again, which is, I'm kind of sad because actually we're leaving tomorrow for NCAA. She's a swimmer in college, and this is the end of her career. And I've spent every vacation I've ever had in the last, 16 years, 15 years around the swimming pool. And I don't know what I'm going to do with those extra vacation days. Like, I don't know how to live my life without having that component. So this is going to be a weird transition for us.
Yeah, she's a beast. I love following when all the posts that you do about her and her videos and everything. I love it.
It's the few, some people I'm sure think it's annoying, and honestly, I don't give a shit about that. I'm that guy that, and I think when you're as active, and I'm sure you're going to have in the same level, whatever your kids are involved in, that because you're so active in their life, that you have a daily interaction on every level. And that's the way our relationship is with our kids. My wife and I decided a long time ago that our marriage is much, we love each other. We're passionate with each other. We love being married to one another. But ultimately our first responsibility over the first 20 some years of our marriage is to raise children and to be producers of great human beings that go out into the world and dominate the world, right? That's my job. I don't want, this isn't about me and her. So this is about sacrifice. Life parenting is about sacrifice and doing without so that your kids can have, not that we spoil them, but that, my kids understand what work ethic means and what hard work is and what sacrifice is. And my daughter said the other day, and this is, it's sad but real, is that, what she had to sacrifice to be a 4.0 student and an All-American swimmer was the typical teenage life and college age life, that the partying and the dating and all those things that come with that territory, she had to sacrifice because she had a plan that she wanted to execute on. And my job was to help her be successful at whatever her plan was. And she's going to have the rest of her life to have relationships. And I said, you get 4 years of high school swimming and school and 4 years of college swimming and school. And then it ends. And then the world, 1% of 1% of 1% go on and swim in the Olympics. That's not her. So she's got an end date. And now it's time to move on with the rest of your life and build the new version of you based off of all the things you learned through the hard work and dedication, hours of looking at a line on the bottom of a pool. Those things you learned are now going to benefit you in every other aspect of your life. But it's a sacrifice. And you sacrifice things as a parent to make sure that your kid who had a plan and understands what sacrifice is and understands what the cost of that sacrifice is, you help them achieve that. And I think as a parent, that's my job. And my wife and I were collectively together. We had a strategic plan on how we were going to raise our children. And I don't think there's enough of that in the world today. We don't have enough intentional parenting in the world.
Nope. We have the opposite. And that's exactly what my husband and I do. And, some people will say, no, your husband comes first. And I get it. I do get it. But we are also bringing two people into this world and trying to make them into respectful, smart human beings that can think for themselves, that can stand on their own 2 feet, and that hopefully make a lot better decisions than we did.
Right.
My husband and I have had colorful paths that led us to where we are now. And I wouldn't change anything, but I, do wish I would have made some better choices throughout my life. But no, and it burns me up so bad when I see, and the hard thing with my oldest, she'll see her friends that get to do a lot of things that she's not allowed to do, or watch things, or even as simple as drink soda. Like my kids don't drink soda. They live on water, and a little bit of juice here or there. It's not good for you.
Right.
And I would rather, take them out to get ice cream than have them drink soda all day long. So we kind of traded up what we can spend our sugar allowance on. But it always, it hurts my heart whenever I see the type of parent that makes their children, and we're even talking babies, conform to their lifestyle.
Right.
You'll have parents they're used to going out and eating at, so my youngest just walked in because she said, he said, hi.
You're a beautiful little girl. I like your hair. Do you have a ponytail in there? Is that what I'm seeing?
Oh,
Yep,
yes.
there it is.
All right. You say bye?
Bye-bye.
Sorry.
No, I love the impromptu visits.
They were upstairs watching anime. My husband's a big anime guy, and
Is that the cartoonish type? Okay.
yeah, all the Japanese cartoons and stuff
Yep.
like that. And so we have a lot of, we love sushi. I have Japanese decorations throughout the house. Everybody's kind of loves that culture. My oldest wants to learn. She just started high school, so that's her language she wants to learn is Japanese. So that's going to be fun.
Everyone else is trying to figure out Spanish, and your kids want to bang out Japanese. All right.
But yeah, it really hurts my heart. I don't understand it when you see parents that just drag their children everywhere, or don't take into consider that naps are important. I mean, sure, we can all get off schedule once in a while, holidays, whatever. But at the end of the day, the way I raised my kids, I went around their schedule. If I knew they needed to nap from 2 to 4, they napped from 2 to 4.
Exactly the same thing.
Unless it was some super, super, super exception to that day. No, I worked around it because let's face it, happy kid, happy life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to throw my kids off and then have them take 3 days to recover to get back to their schedule, to get back to where they're not melting down every 5 minutes. That's not worth it. I'd rather have happy kids.
There's so much more when it comes to parenting. It's not as simply as being there as enough, right? I've seen it 1,000 times where, I go in a house where there's a kid that's, acting up or has gotten arrested, and you have to go and have a conversation with the family. And I'm always baffled by the lack of owning up as the parent as to why your kid is the way they are. And it may be that moment you didn't cause. You didn't do something to cause them to go sell drugs that day, but the collective moments of your parenting have somehow led them into that world. And this isn't me throwing, stones in a glass house. I know for a fact that I mess up as a dad, and my wife messes up as a mom, and I readily am open about our lack of perfection. But our lack of intention is not there. We intend to be great parents every single day. We intend to be great examples for our kids. I want my kids to understand the value of their last name and understand that someone before me gave me that name, and that it's our responsibility to continue that name in good light, because that's what we do as Cubblers. And I want them to have an appreciation for other people's feelings and have empathy and have an understanding that not everybody comes from the same level of love and understanding that they do, but then also have a high set of standards for themselves and don't settle. There is greatness in every one of us if we choose to accept it, that responsibility, and go seize it. And I think as parents, in today's society, it is first of all, it's a very immediacy driven world we live in, where if you don't have immediate gratification or immediate responses to every single thing, people lose their goddamn minds. And, I remember when I was a kid, if the Phillies were playing the Dodgers on the West Coast, I wouldn't know until the late edition the next morning whether or not the Phillies won. that's 12, 14, 16 hours later. I can tell you what pitch was thrown a second after it was thrown. And that's that instantaneous gratification that the world thrives off of today. And, you look at the coronavirus nonsense, that's just literally the ability to blast our minds with information, whether it's factual or not is really irrelevant. It's just, we live in a world where if we can learn about something now, I want to learn about it now, whether it's true or not. And that's what's hurting today's youth, is because there's no grit, there's no resiliency, there's no outworking your opponent or in sports or in school or having that responsibility or accountability in your life, because next second you can get another thing given to you because it's instant gratification. I just think that's what hurts me when I watch, as a cop, other families, because I'm like, when did you not decide that the two people you made, or three people, or one person you made collectively with your spouse or the baby's mom or baby's dad, how did you not decide that was not the most important thing in the world?
I know. I don't get it.
It's insane.
It is. And I mean, everybody has their own parenting style. And I don't judge, I don't criticize your parenting style. We all do it different. And that's what I instill in my girls. I'm like, yeah, I know your friend got this. I know your friend can watch this, whatever. Remember, everybody parents differently, and that's okay. I was like, because you can do X, Y, Z, and they're not allowed to do that. You get to go X, Y, Z, and they're not allowed to do that. So I try to make sure they realize they are not entitled to anything. I don't owe them anything. Everything in this house is a privilege. It's not a right. I can take your TV away tomorrow. You don't have to have it. That's a privilege that you've been given. Because I don't want them to ever think that anybody owes them anything. They need to work for everything that they want. I had to work for my first car. I had to work for my first apartment. I had to work for everything. You just don't get handed stuff. We're not rich. And even if we were, we're not handing anything out. I'm not doing it.
Well, I think a lot of that is seen now in the very limited that we know each other through social media and your Rocks for Leos. You're setting an example of not only what do I have or what don't I have within my own four walls and in my life, but what do other people need and want, and how can I contribute outside of my home? Like creating that people don't understand how, like, I got that rock and I still look at that rock every single day, and it's just a rock, but it's a rock that says something that has my name and thank you. And it's, if somebody took a labor of love to do that, and it's a gift. And when you can give that gift to someone who wasn't expecting the gift, right? It's not something anybody signed up onto a mailing list for Rocks for Leos and when do I get my rock? It was purely one-sided giving to someone else. And I can tell you that every single guy in our department appreciated it. But I think that's probably an overall feeling of how you're parenting, right? That you be appreciative of what you have, give unto others if you have the ability to do so, give, whether it's financially or of your time. Those are all important life lessons that you're instilling in your children.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, have you ever heard of that God has given all of us gifts? Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
I don't know it very well, but I know we've all been given a gift. Some of us, I'm trying to think of the different ones that there are, but I know mine is hospitality. So I'm not really a people person. You might find that odd. I'm not a people person. I'm very much an introvert. I would like to stay in my house. Like the coronavirus, I don't care because I'm staying home. Like that, I don't care.
We're China, so we're good.
Right? But I had to laugh because this morning I had to run errands, and I always do cash at the grocery store. And I gave myself a chuckle when I was checking my wallet to make sure I had my grocery cash in it. And I was like, look at me with my contraband going out there spreading the virus with my
Right.
cash.
Dollar bills are evil.
I'm like, oh boy. But no, I'm not, so I'm not really a people person. I like to be by myself. I like my space. I don't like to deal with a lot of nonsense.
Right.
But if you come over to my house, I will wait on you hand and foot. Do you want me to make you something to eat? Do you need something? Do you want me to get you another pillow? Whatever it is. My aunt, when she lived in California, when she would come here for holidays, she would stay with us because at the time we had an extra bedroom because we were only one kid. And I would make her bedroom so nice. I mean, and I would have everything here that she wanted. Her kind of coffee. I bought a coffee maker because we don't do coffee. I know we're weird people. We don't drink coffee. But I went out and bought her a coffee maker. I made sure I had the kind that she liked. Like I had the kitchen stocked with everything she liked for at least the first 2 days that she was here, so she wouldn't have to run out and go get anything. That's just, I don't know. I'm a giver, but don't take my snacks. So everybody in this house knows I'm a giver. I will give you the shirt off my back. I will give you whatever you need. Do not go in that pantry and take my snacks that I bought for myself. I will buy you whatever snack you want. Don't take mine. Because there's nothing worse than going in there to go get mine. And I'm the type of person that I don't just eat chips for a snack. I might have chips, like a handful of chips, some pretzels, and maybe a little piece of chocolate. I like a little array of something. Right. So if I go in there to get my snacks, they better be in there. There's nothing worse than going in there and my 3 cookies are missing that I was going to have tonight, And I think I get that from my father. I think he was the same way.
My wife and kids are that way. I don't really have a thing, like food-wise, that I would go for, other than coffee. Really, is my only daily vice. But I'll go in and my wife will buy some Girl Scout cookies or whatever, and I'm sure she bought them with the intention of my son eating them or my daughter eating them or whatever. It was my check, so I walk in. I'm like, I love those caramel delights. I'll have 2 of those. Well, then I walk in and it's like, I've got to 3rd grade. My wife's like, who ate these caramel delights? I'm like, I did. She's like, those are for your son. I said, well, I made him. So therefore they're mine.
I do the same thing with my husband.
2 damn caramel delights if I want them. Well, I don't have enough for his lunches. I'm like, go buy another.
That's how we shop. We're very detailed. So it's like, we know 4 cookies a day and it'll last a week. Yeah.
And that you literally just gave my wife into a synopsis there. Everything is based on my wife. Listen, I married the most structured human being on the planet. And you would think I'm a prior military guy, I'm a cop, that order and structure are actually part of my life. It's not. I am literally finding every way I possibly can to go against the grain that I can possibly find. I went and people are like, how could you have survived in the military? I'm like, I made the military work for me. Like I figured out how, I found all the loopholes and I knew exactly how to make the military fit into my world.
Oh yeah, we know.
Same thing as a cop. That's my life.
We've heard the stories.
Yes. So my wife is the opposite of that. So if I was left, and I told her, I said, if anything ever, if you left me or any, God forbid, anything ever happened to you when our kids were little, there's a pretty good chance that they would never survive, because I don't have that in me to plan a day out like that. Like I have my calendar on when I got to be where, and if I have a podcast or whatever, but just normal everyday living shit, I'm a mess. I don't.
Oh, yeah. And my husband has no clue. He can.
Thank God we married women like you.
Yeah. Like he brings in the money and I run the household.
That's pretty much it. That's the way we got it set up. I haven't cooked. I can't cook. I can grill. Like I'm a grill guy, and I can order pizza and I can pour cereal. And I you know what? I lie. I can do breakfast food. Like I can make omelets and French toast. But if there was like in the summertime, my wife and my kids go to my wife's parents' shore house down in Jersey. And so I'm pretty much a bachelor from middle of June till middle of August. And I eat nothing but cereal and pizza. She's like, why don't you go buy groceries? I'm like, nah. Like, I look at it and I go, I'm really just hungry.
Right.
I just need food in my belly. I don't care if it's spaghetti and meatballs or a bowl of cereal. It's food.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the easiest pathway to food as I possibly can find.
Yeah.
Usually just pouring a bowl of, cinnamon toast crunch or something ridiculous.
That's my husband.
Yeah.
Or steak. Now he can make himself steak, but he still likes it mooing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no.
If Lauren says we're having steak tonight, will you grill the steaks? I'll go out and grill the steaks. If I'm by myself and there's 6 steaks in the freezer and I see a box of cereal, I'm picking a box of cereal because it's just the quickest, easiest way to get food in my stomach. I don't really have a hunger for any one particular thing ever. When I'm hungry, I just want food. I don't care what it is. So let's talk about the Rocks for Leos and how that all started. Like, first of all, I've never heard of anything like it, which is why it's so unique and so cool is that, and there's a buddy of mine, I did a podcast, Chris Lockhead, who he's a marketing genius. He took several Silicon Valley companies to over $4 billion in sales as their chief marketing officer. Dude knows marketing. And he always talks about having a niche. You got to find out what your niche is. And you're not trying to make a better product. You're trying to out market your opponent. So if you have, and I own E4 Strength and Max Out, and we have a piece of technology that is automated and precise and surgical. And then there's the other option is the archaic bands and chains, which cost a fraction of what our technology costs. And rather than trying to tell people why mine is better than bands and chains, I just simply got to make mine the only one they're thinking about as a marketer. Like it's not about being better than something else. It's about making people think that the only thing out there is yours. And I think that's what makes the Rocks for Leos thing so cool is that I've never seen anything like it. So tell us how that all started.
Well, we a few years back, we had 2 deputies that were killed during the same traffic call, or it wasn't a traffic call, it was a call. And it was right by our house. And in fact, my youngest, who you just met, she and I were there just minutes before everything happened.
Wow.
And it was a place of business to eat. And we had pulled in the parking lot because anyone who knows me knows if I can get food out, I will. I typically cook every meal that we eat. But there are times where, especially when she was younger, it was just easier to go out and grab breakfast, grab lunch, whatever. And I didn't feel like cooking. So she and I drove over there. She was in her little baby car seat. And I pulled right up to the building, turned the car off, and then stopped. And I was like, should we go? She's a baby. She can't talk. And I'm like, should we go in and get food or should mommy just make food? And she's just making her little noises and everything. And I'm like, I really don't want to cook, but let's just go in. And I opened my door and then I didn't get out. And I closed my door and I'm like, forget it. It was like one of these where I was going back and forth, and I never do that. If I pull up somewhere to get food, I'm getting food.
Right.
No, it's just much easier. And I got back in the car and I'm like, forget it. We should just eat at home, save our money. I'll just make something easy. I'll make egg sandwiches or something. And we pulled out and we went down one road, turned another road. And when we hit the main road near our house, I don't know what happened, but I counted 16 emergency vehicles flying down the road. And I'm talking about vehicles I've never seen in my entire life. I didn't even know these vehicles existed. They had all kinds of different things on them. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And a friend of mine who is a police officer in a neighboring town who lived in my neighborhood at the time, I texted him and I was like, hey, what's going on? Have you heard anything? Because I'm sitting such and such place and this is what I'm seeing. And he was like, you need to go home. Just you and the baby, go home and stay home. And he told me what happened. That one of the deputies was shot over there and it's an ongoing situation. And that quickly, then it turned into 2 of them. And it was the first time that I had experienced something like that, especially so close to home. We've had other fallen deputies throughout the years, but never to anything like this. And it really ripped through our community. I was not expecting all of that. And I ended up taking my girls so that we could see both of the processions, and I don't know, in such a sad time, but it's so unreal to see how just strangers come together. And it was at that point in time that I realized we need to do something, and I want to do something. I want to assure law enforcement that there are people who care about them. There are people who are supporting them, whether you see us or not, we're here. Because it seemed like every time you turn on the news, someone else is getting killed. And my girls don't understand that, and they don't watch the news or anything. And they're coming down, they're playing, and I'm sitting here on my laptop crying, or I'm crying at the TV, and they're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, we lost another one. And I knew something had to be done, because you just see defeat. Like, you could just see, I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but exactly what I'm saying. And so it took us a little while, because I was like, we could go to the warehouse store and get big trays of cookies, or go to Chick-fil-A. We know law enforcement loves their Chick-fil-A, and get trays of chicken nuggets and take it down. But unless you get there at roll call, nobody's going to get it. So the chicken nuggets are going to get cold. Nobody's going to want to eat them 3 hours later when they stop in. So we didn't do that. I was like, cookies would be good, because cookies don't go bad. But to me, it just seemed impersonal and wouldn't last. So we kept, thinking, and it's one of those where I would think about it, and then it would be out of my mind for a little bit. And then one day, my husband, who went to go to Target to pick up something, came home, and he was like, look what I found. And it was a painted rock. It had a peace sign on it. It was pink, and it had a peace sign on it. And I was like, what is this? And it had an abbreviation on the back, and said, look up on Facebook. So I looked it up, and it was it was the Painted Rocks of Maryland group. And come to find out, people do this all over the place. They paint rocks, they leave them outside businesses, in parks, playgrounds, in the hopes of whoever finds that rock, it brings a smile to their face.
Like a message in a bottle.
Yeah, like a message in a bottle, just something to brighten your day. Some people call them kindness rocks, spreading kindness, joy rocks. I've seen all kinds of different names for them. So right away, my oldest was like, oh my gosh, let's do this. So my husband, we all went up to the craft store, and we're looking at the paints, and thankfully in the group, it told you kind of the paints you should use and that kind of stuff. So we started painting rocks and leaving them around town. Just anything. I mean, a heart, believe, like I would just write believe on a rock, real pretty, or you're worth it, like just little inspirational messages. 4th of July would come around, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and I would paint USA flags and leave them at businesses. We dropped some off at the VFW hall, and then I said, one day it just hit me, and I was like, hey, why don't we paint some Back the Blue rocks, and we'll drop them off at the precinct, outside, and if they like them, they'll pick them up. So we painted 2, and they just said Back the Blue, and they had a thin blue line on them. And we didn't drop any off, because we just never made it over that far. And so we held on to it. And then one day I texted our sheriff, and I was like, hey, the girls have something for you. Can we stop by? And he was like, sure. I'm in the office. I'm like, okay, great. So we went up, and we gave him the first Back the Blue rock, and he loved it. and he still has it. Let's see, that was what, 3 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago. He still has it on his shelf behind his desk where he sits every day, underneath of his 2 little miniature flags. One is the USA flag and one's the Maryland flag, or the county where we live, I think. And he still has it. And so then I was like, okay, now we have another one. That's fine. And I told the girls, I was like, okay, now that we gave the sheriff one, who we adore, we think he's the greatest. We think he's wonderful. I was like, now we need to find a deputy or an officer, because we have both around here. And we looked everywhere. We went to Chick-fil-A. I mean, we literally stalked Chick-fil-A and could not find any. So my oldest was like, just speed, Mom. Just drive like a mad woman everywhere we go. I'm like, well, no.
A little aggressive, but I like where she's
going. I'm not gonna go that far. I'm like, I already speed as it is. We don't need to go farther than that. So one day we finally just said, forget it. We're sitting in Chick-fil-A parking lot, still no police officer, no deputies, no nothing. And the 3 of us, it was just me and the girls, we prayed. We just stopped what we were doing and we prayed that God would send us a deputy or an officer that would appreciate it, that would understand what it is, or that needed it. You know, just send us the right person, you know, who should get it, kind of thing. And we kept it in the console of my car, drove around 2 months, still looking, couldn't find anybody anywhere. And then one October day, I came up from doing laundry in the basement, and I came up to the kitchen, happened to look out the front door, and there was a sheriff's office car right out front. And of course I screamed, right. You know, and my girls were like eating lunch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a deputy out front, run. And it's raining, and my oldest runs out there, and she's like, she knocked on his window. He didn't even see her. I felt bad because he kind of like jumped because she knocked at the window. And then she was like, do you have a second? We have something for you. And he was like, sure. Do you need any help? And she's like, no, we just have something for you. So I grabbed my youngest, who doesn't have shoes on, and it's raining. So I'm holding her, and I'm trying to get out the door to get into my car. And I get it, and I hand it to him. And that is how I met one of my very best friends. So total stranger. We gave him the rock, and he held it. I mean, he just held it. And I think he talked to us for probably 30 minutes, standing in the rain, held it. And he kept running his finger over it and just looking at it. And, you know, we told him why we painted it, who we are, kind of thing. And, you know, I took a picture with him and the girls and asked him if I could tag him, you know, on Facebook. And he was like, sure, this is who I am, you know. Tagged him. Instantly, we kind of became friends. Like later that night, we became friends. And then to this day, he is one of my dearest friends. I mean, his girls and my girls get along so great. I love his wife. I mean, they're family. They're literally friends that are family.
Right.
And that, you know, if nothing great else ever happens, that's the best thing that ever happened from this. But he was partner. That was his partner, one of the fallen.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, that's how God works.
Yeah.
That's how God works. I without a doubt, that's how God works. And that's a beautiful, beautiful story. I love that kind of shit. That's why I do this show, is for those, because I didn't know the story. I had no idea. And
yeah. Sorry. I'm like,
that's awesome.
It's, you know, it doesn't matter how many times I tell it. It's just, that's just me though. That's me. I don't know if you listen to Christian music, but you know, we listen to everything, but I can listen to a Christian worship song that I have heard 1,000,000 times, and I will still be in tears singing the song. Like, I don't know. That's me. I'm very quiet. I'm shy. Keep to myself, but I feel things in my core.
Right.
And it's just, and you know, rocking departments and things, absolutely love it. And it does, like, when you see me use the hashtag rock family, it really means family, because everybody that we have met, that we have rocked, whether I've had any interaction with them, they're a part of our family. I mean, that's what
Well,
it
look at
means.
us. I mean,
Yeah.
we've never met.
No.
It's and I gave you my buddy Josh with the Border Patrol, and you sent him rocks. I mean, I think it's just you're not asking for anything, and that's like it's simple, it's heartfelt. Your kids are involved in the process. Your whole family's involved in the process. There's a story behind it, which I didn't know until right now. I mean, I kind of figured there was a story behind it, but I didn't know the depth of it. And I just think it's when people who aren't cops, it's not the best time to be a cop. The last 7 to 10 years have kind of sucked in the law enforcement world, just in a public perception level. It's hard to stay pure with your intentions as a cop anymore, because you have to ask yourself constantly, should I do that? Like, am I going to put myself out there into the risk world for that? And that's not healthy. When your job isn't immediately responding with your training and your expertise and your goodwill and your nature, if that isn't the first thing you're leading with, then it becomes a whole different job, where you're no longer simply just out there doing a great job for the community. It's now you have to second guess yourself. Is it worth it to do that? And that's not what the world needs from its cops. And with all the negative shit that's out there, with all the, for every cop who does something stupid, one cop, we're all castricized for doing nothing wrong, but being lumped into that one person who may make a mistake. There's enough good people like you who are sending something as simple as a rock with a note that says, we love you and appreciate you. And you don't know me. Like, you don't even live in the community I'm a cop in, but you're sending these across the country of people who quite literally need it. You have no idea how important that rock was to, I'm sure, your best friend whose partner was killed. And to me, like, having that, I see it every day, literally every single day when I go to my desk, it's sitting right on my desk. And that's important for my mindset, to know that while my wife and kids love me, my mom and dad, everybody's, oh, we love you, you're the best, keep doing what you're doing. You sometimes wonder whether it's all worth it. And you wonder whether or not shouldering that responsibility and taking on the level of stress that comes from just being a cop. And I don't work in the worst place in the world. I have in the past. But no matter what, I mean, I'm sure you don't live in the middle of the ghetto, and 2 cops in your county were killed. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're in the Kensington section of Philadelphia, or you live in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, or in Maryland. There's always danger, and there's always people who could do you harm. And it's nice to know that there's someone out there who's raising their kids the right way, with an outward in mentality, that we're going to go and help people and we're going to do good in the world. And I appreciate the work that you're doing with the Rocks for Leos. And I know my buddy Josh loved his rock, and everyone else, I'm sure, through all the Facebook posts I see and the pictures and the things that the officers tag you in, I know they love it. And I can only imagine when I do public speaking and I get up and I talk to kids or I mentor kids, that feeling that you get, and knowing that you connected with somebody and that they understand you and you understand them, and you hopefully did something to help them along the way. And I think that's probably one of the reoccurring themes you feel when you send a shipment of rocks out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is literally a hobby. It's a hobby. We're not a business. We're not, like you said, we're not a charity. I mean, I feel like we're doing good.
You are.
You know, and in the beginning, I used to tell the girls, because it's funny, you never know what an officer is going through when you meet them. And you just don't know. Everybody's different. We all have different personalities. And sometimes we'll meet one in person and it's the greatest thing ever. And they make it the greatest thing ever. The officer does. You know, that they love it. They tell us how much they love it. They want to take lots of pictures. And then sometimes we hand one out and it's thanks. You know, it's real quick and short. And my girls would get a little disappointed. And I kept telling them, I'm like, look, they may go home later and look at that and have the biggest smile on their face. They may get in their car and take the time to look at it. They may not have had the time, or they weren't in the mental space right now to even comprehend that we gave them a thank you.
Right.
I'm like, they may not process that till later, and that's okay. I'm like, it's okay. Just tell them thank you, hand it to them, and that's it. Don't expect anything. Don't be disappointed if they don't want to take your picture, they don't want to hug. Just, you know, we're not here for us, we're here for them. And that's it. I mean, that's the end of the story. And I think that's why it was really shocking, and still shocks me now, that I've made a lot of real friendships. You know, granted, a lot of them I will never meet or haven't met. But I've made a lot of real friendships. And it could be because I do have a dark humor side to me, so I can relate. I mean, I have a select few in my small group that we send back inappropriate memes, you know, that you don't want to put out there on Facebook on your wall. And, you know, I don't know if it's just some kind of weird connection that we can't really understand. But I mean, you know, there's several I've become friends with on Facebook, like you, Josh. I have some chiefs and sheriffs that I'm friends with on Facebook that we send Christmas cards to each other. And I never in a million years would have thought that would happen at all. I mean, who would even think to ask for a friendship? You don't, because there is that, you know, we just want to say thank you and let you know someone is thinking of you. And I always, like, you know, in your box, whenever we send out rocks, they get a copy of our story. Did you get a copy of that, or were we not doing that yet?
I don't think you were doing that yet.
Okay. So we have since, because you're one of the earlier departments. Since then, we do a printout of our story, which you can read on our Facebook page. We send that to every department. And then I also do a handwritten letter to the chief or the sheriff. You
wrote a handwritten letter, you know, saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know the story.
And just give a little bit of info and what the rock represents, you know, and that we hope they appreciate it and understand what it is. You know, beyond that, like, that's usually the end for me. So it's really nice when, you know, someone reaches out. Like, the girls love so much when somebody just all of a sudden my inbox dings and there's a random picture of an officer with his rock, or just a message. Oh my gosh, I got this today. Thank you so much. You know, it's just, I don't know. I guess I wasn't prepared for that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't prepared to get anything in return, period. A thank you. But that wasn't even expected. So in the beginning, it was really kind of hard for me to process, you know, but now I love it. I mean, it's great.
How many have you sent out to date? How many rocks have you guys hand painted? Mind you, people, these are hands, like, with a brush, you handwritten, hand prepared. Like, there's a process she was telling me about before we went live for each rock. And it's not like you bought a rock, threw some paint on it, and threw it in a box. This is a labor of love. And so how many of these rocks have you personalized and sent out?
So I just mailed another box today. And I have 57 sitting on our coffee table that we just have the black layer on. So that's all we've done to them so far. And we just passed 3,600.
Wow.
I'm at like 3,647 or somewhere around there.
3,647 individually painted rocks from a woman who has no law enforcement background with 2 little kids and a husband who works full time and as a hobby. So wrap your head around that, people. I love your passion. I love the fact that with social media, you can, it's not, I'm sure back in the 90s, it was, you'd hope to get an email for the police department in general, and nobody had their own email, and you had a phone number that was a dispatcher. Now you can actually connect with police departments on social media and learn more about each one of the individual officers. And if officers are on social media, you can become friends with them. So I think your ability to connect and then stay in touch, because I mean that's what happened with us. And I think it's a great thing you're doing. I think you're setting a great example for your girls. I know that law enforcement that you've sent rocks to are all very appreciative, and I can't thank you enough for. I can't thank Tim enough for making the introduction, but then for you sending our department rocks and just staying and connected with me and then doing the show has been awesome, and I'm so thankful for you.
Yeah, it's really cool how the connections work. You know, I would have never in a million years figured Tim would be able to connect me with anybody, and so it's really neat. And he just connected me with somebody else too recently.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's his thing, man. He's a connector, and that's one thing that's great about him.
yeah.
Listen, I'm going to close out the show. What's the website where people can learn more about? Obviously, Rocks for Leos on Facebook, but what's the website?
Everything is the same. Rocks for FOR Leos LEOS.com.
Awesome.
And we're the same on Facebook, Instagram. Rocks for Leos. Just write out the word for.
Awesome. I'll make sure I put the website in the social media post that I do. It's in the show notes. I'll make sure that I put this in all different law enforcement groups as well. And hopefully we get some more rocks for you to paint up and send out.
I have a list.
I'm sure.
We just washed 120 rocks over the weekend for 5 departments that are waiting to be painted. But awesome. Yeah.
Well, God bless you. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere. Everybody, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the 2 Dates and a Dash podcast. I am your host, Matt Cubbler. Thank you again to the amazing Heather Benson, the founder of Rocks for Leos, for being a guest on the show and sharing her personal story about how this all came to be. It's such an inspiring story, and I'm so thankful that you went there and shared that with us. And, everybody, cops are not the most popular people all the time, but we are just human beings. We have fears and insecurities and anxieties and stress that are compounded when you think about the level of responsibility that we carry every day. And remember, we don't get to pick the calls we go on, and you don't get to pick the cop that shows up to your house when you call 911. Each cop has their own set of experiences and history in the job. You may get a guy that's got 35 years in the job that could solve every problem with his eyes closed, or you could get the kid that just graduated from high school and he's a cop and he's got 6 months on the job and has no idea what the hell he's doing. But your expectation of excellence is still there no matter what. And just imagine the difference in abilities between those two different parameters I just set for you. So be patient, understand we're human. We're not superheroes. Fight or flight is real inside of each and every one of us. We just don't get to choose flight. And we're going against nature inside of our own minds and our bodies. So we make mistakes. We're not perfect, but we sure do try hard. So thank you very much for what you're doing for us, Heather. And everybody, God bless. Thank a cop and go out and be kind to one another.